A struggling single mother walks into a five-star restaurant to return a lost wallet, only to cross paths with a billionaire CEO whose icy heart begins to thaw when her 7-year-old daughter sees past his armor. When a medical crisis, corporate betrayal, and a custody battle collide, two broken souls from opposite worlds discover that saving each other might be the only way to save themselves. The evening rain streaked down the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lumiere, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, where a single reservation cost more than Maya Chen's monthly rent. Crystal chandeliers cast golden halos over tables draped in cream silk, where women wore jewelry that could fund college educations and men discussed mergers between bites of $30 oysters. Maya stood just inside the revolving door, her hand gripping her daughter's small fingers too tightly. Her work uniform, navy scrubs from her morning shift at St. Mary's Hospital, peeked out beneath a threadbare coat she'd owned since college. Rain had plastered her dark hair against her cheeks, and her sneakers squeaked against marble floors that reflected her inadequacy back at her. "Mama, it's so pretty," 7-year-old Lily whispered, her eyes wide as moons. The little girl still wore her school uniform, the hem fraying where Maya hadn't had time to fix it. A purple backpack, decorated with crayon drawings of their family of two, hung crooked on her shoulders. "We can't stay, sweetheart. We just have to return this and go." Maya's fingers trembled as she clutched the leather wallet she'd found on the subway that morning. Inside, credit cards with weight limits she couldn't fathom, a driver's license for someone named Alexander Thorne, and $300 in cash, more than she made in 2 days of double shifts. She could have kept it. God knows the electricity bill was overdue again, and Lily's winter coat had a broken zipper held together with safety pins. But Maya had learned long ago that integrity was the only inheritance she could give her daughter. The maitre d' approached with the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes, a professional mask that Maya recognized from her years in service work. His gaze traveled from her wet sneakers to her rain-soaked coat, categorizing her in milliseconds. "I'm sorry, but Lumiere operates on a reservation-only basis," he said, his French accent somehow making the rejection sound elegant. "Perhaps you're looking for—" "I'm not here to eat," Maya interrupted, hating how defensive she sounded. "I found someone's wallet. An Alexander Thorne, the ID says. Mr. Thorne is dining with us this evening." The maitre d's expression shifted minutely, from dismissive to calculating. "I can ensure he receives it." Maya hesitated. She'd come all this way, taken 2 subway trains after her shift, brought Lily along because her usual babysitter had canceled. Something about putting the wallet directly into this stranger's hands felt important, like proof that not everyone who struggled was dishonest. "I'd prefer to give it to him myself," she said quietly. The maitre d's jaw tightened. "That's highly irregular." "Mama, that man is sad," Lily said suddenly, pointing across the dining room. At a corner table, Alexander Thorne sat alone, despite the restaurant's crowd, a fortress of one, surrounded by crystal and china. At 36, he wore his power like other men wore cologne, expensive, noticeable, and slightly suffocating. His tailored Tom Ford suit probably cost more than Maya's car, and his Patek Philippe watch caught the light with every movement of his hand. But Lily was right. Despite his commanding presence, the broad shoulders, the sharp jawline, the dark eyes that seemed to calculate the room's net worth with a glance, there was something devastated in the way he stared at the untouched glass of scotch before him. The maitre d' sighed, a sound of expensive resignation. Wait here. He crossed the dining room, with practiced grace, leaning down to murmur in Alexander's ear. Maya watched, as the billionaire's gaze lifted, traveled across the restaurant, and locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. For a moment, neither moved. Then Alexander stood, his 6'3" frame unfolding with athletic ease, and gestured for them to approach. Maya's hand tightened around Lily's. Remember what I taught you about manners? Yes, Mama. Shoulders back. Look people in the eye. Say please and thank you. Lily recited this like a prayer, which in their world, it was. They crossed the dining room under the weight of 100 judging stares. Maya felt every eye dissecting her cheap coat, her wet hair, her working-class existence invading this temple of wealth. Her cheeks burned, but she kept her spine straight, a skill learned from years of holding her head high when the world wanted her to bow. Alexander waited until they reached his table. Up close, Maya could see the details, the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, the shadows beneath his eyes suggesting sleepless nights, the tiny scar above his left eyebrow. His cologne was subtle, expensive, sandalwood and something darker. Mr. Thorne? Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. I found your wallet on the 6 train this morning. Everything's still inside. She extended it toward him, and their fingers brushed in the exchange. The contact lasted less than a second, but something shifted in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, that she'd actually returned it intact. You took 2 trains in the rain to return this, Alexander said. It wasn't a question, but an observation delivered in a voice like aged whiskey. Smooth, dark, with an edge that could burn. It's the right thing to do. Most people would have kept the cash, at least. He opened the wallet, confirming nothing was missing, then pulled out $500 bills. Please, for your trouble. Maya's pride flared hot in her chest. I don't want a reward. I wanted to do the right thing. Then do it for her. His gaze dropped to Lily, who was staring up at him with that unsettling, unblinking curiosity children possess. Buy her a proper winter coat. The comment hit like a slap. Maya glanced down at Lily's jacket with its safety pin zipper, and shame flooded through her so completely she thought she might drown in it. He'd noticed. Of course he'd noticed. The whole restaurant had probably noticed. We're fine, Maya said, her voice sharp now. Thank you, but we don't need— You're sad, Lily announced, still staring at Alexander with those enormous brown eyes that missed nothing. Why are you sad when you have all this pretty stuff? Alexander froze. For a moment, the armor cracked, and Maya glimpsed something raw beneath. Grief, maybe, or loneliness so profound it had become its own kind of gravity. Lily, Maya gasped. I'm so sorry, she doesn't understand. No. Alexander held up a hand, his attention now fully on the little girl. He crouched down slowly, bringing himself to her eye level, a gesture that seemed foreign to him, unpracticed. What makes you think I'm sad? Lily tilted her head, considering. Your eyes. They look like Mama's eyes did when Daddy left, like something broke inside. The silence that followed was dense enough to taste. Maya wanted to disappear, to grab Lily and run back to their tiny apartment in Queens, where they belonged. But Alexander's expression had transformed into something almost human. You're very perceptive, he said quietly. Yes, I'm sad. Someone I loved very much isn't here anymore. My daddy left us, Lily said matter-of-factly. But Mama says that's his loss because we're amazing. Maybe the person who left you is sad too, wherever they are. Alexander's throat worked as he swallowed. When he looked up at Maya, she saw the question in his eyes. What kind of child is this? What kind of mother raises someone so impossibly kind? Would you like to sit down? Alexander asked, his voice rough. Both of you. I'd like that very much. Maya should have declined. Every instinct screamed at her to take Lily and leave, to not expose her daughter to a world that would only remind them of everything they didn't have. But something in his expression, that raw vulnerability Lily had somehow excavated, made her pause. We couldn't possibly. Please. Just one word, but it carried the weight of genuine need. I've been sitting alone at this table for an hour, trying to remember why any of this matters. Your daughter just reminded me. Stay. Humor a sad man. Lily tugged at Maya's hand. Can we, Mama? I'm hungry, and he's lonely. The waiter who appeared at their table wore his disdain like cologne, obvious and slightly nauseating. His name tag read Philippe, and his smile was a thin, contemptuous line as he took in Maya's damp scrubs and Lily's scuffed school shoes. Will the young lady and her companion be joining you, Mr. Thorne? The pause before companion dripped with implication. Alexander's eyes went cold, but temperature dropped so sudden it was almost visible. Miss Chen and her daughter will be dining with me. Bring 3 menus. Of course, though I should mention that we have a dress code. Then I suggest you bring the menus before I mention to your manager that you're making my guests uncomfortable. Alexander's voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. Quickly. Philippe's retreat was hasty, but the damage was done. Maya felt the weight of the restaurant's attention like physical pressure. At nearby tables, women in designer dresses whispered behind their hands. A group of men in suits smirked openly. We should go, Maya murmured. This was a mistake. Mama, no, Lily's voice carried, louder than intended. The sad man asked us to stay. We can't be rude. From 2 tables over, a woman's voice cut through the ambient noise. Loud, deliberately cruel. How desperate must someone be to use their child to trap a billionaire? It's embarrassing, really. The speaker was perhaps 50, dripping in diamonds, her face stretched tight from too many procedures. Her companions, equally polished, equally cruel, laughed behind their wineglasses. Maya's face burned. Every fear she'd had about coming here crystallized into this single moment of public humiliation. She stood, her chair scraping against marble. We're leaving, she said firmly, reaching for Lily's hand. But Alexander was already on his feet, his 6'3" frame radiating controlled fury. He crossed to the diamond-draped woman's table in 3 strides. Mrs. Whitmore, Alexander said, his voice carrying across the hushed restaurant. I've tolerated your presence at charity galas and board meetings because I believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. I see now that was misplaced generosity. Mrs. Whitmore's surgically enhanced face attempted a smile. Alexander, darling, I was only... You were insulting my guest. A woman who traveled across the city in the rain to return something that didn't belong to her. A woman who's teaching her daughter more about integrity and kindness than you've demonstrated in your entire silver spoon existence. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Even the kitchen noise seemed to have stopped. I didn't mean, Mrs. Whitmore began. You meant exactly what you said, which tells me everything I need to know about your character. Alexander turned to address the entire restaurant now, his voice steady and clear. This woman has more grace in her work-worn hands than any of you have in your entire bodies. She could have kept my wallet. God knows she probably needed the money more than I do. But she didn't. Because she has something. Say. Most people here have never had to develop genuine integrity born from genuine struggle. Maya stood frozen, Lily pressed against her side, as Alexander continued. I've spent my entire career building wealth alongside people like you. People who mistake cruelty for sophistication and judgment for insight. Tonight, a 7-year-old child showed me more wisdom in 30 seconds than most of you have managed in your entire lives. He turned back to Mrs. Whitmore. You're permanently disinvited from any event hosted by Thorne Industries. Your husband's construction company will no longer be considered for our contracts. And I'll be sharing this story with every board I sit on, 10 in total, so they can evaluate whether someone with your values should be trusted with positions of influence. The color drained from Mrs. Whitmore's face. Alexander, you can't. I just did. He returned to Maya and Lily, his expression softening. I apologize. You came here to do something kind, and you were met with cruelty. That's unacceptable. Lily looked up at him with something like awe. You're a superhero, she whispered. Alexander's lips twitched. Almost a smile. I'm really not, but thank you. They returned to Alexander's table amid a restaurant-wide shift in atmosphere. The whispers had changed tone, from mockery to speculation, from cruelty to curiosity. Philippe returned with menus, his disdain replaced by nervous efficiency. I apologize for my earlier lack of hospitality, he murmured. Apology noted, Alexander said dismissively. Now I believe my guests are hungry. Maya opened the menu and immediately regretted it. No prices were listed, which meant everything was absurdly expensive. Her eyes scanned past duck confit, truffled risotto, wagyu beef, foods she'd only seen on cooking shows Lily watched while Maya worked her night shifts. Mama, what's escargot? Lily asked, attempting to sound out the French words. Snails, sweetheart. Lily's face scrunched up adorably. People eat snails? Rich people eat snails, Alexander said, and there was a hint of amusement in his voice. The first warmth Maya had detected. I never understood it either. He closed his menu and looked at Philippe. Bring us the chef's special for children, but make it 3 servings, and sparkling water with lemon. After Philippe left, an awkward silence settled over the table. Maya folded her hands in her lap, hyper-aware of her bitten-down nails and the faded scar on her wrist from a childhood accident. Alexander swirled his scotch, but didn't drink, his gaze distant. Lily, unburdened by adult anxieties, broke the silence. Mr. Thorne, do you have any kids? The question landed like a grenade. Alexander's entire body went rigid, his knuckles whitening around his glass. Lily, Maya warned softly. It's all right, Alexander said, though his voice suggested it was anything but. No, no children. Why not? You'd be good at it. You stood up for us. Maya saw it then, the way grief crossed his face like a shadow, there and gone in a heartbeat. I thought I would have children someday, with someone, but she's gone now. Like my daddy's gone? Different. Your father chose to leave. Mine, his voice caught. My fiancée didn't choose. She was in an accident 3 months ago. A drunk driver. She was bringing wedding invitations to the printer. The confession hung in the air, stark and terrible. Maya's throat tightened. Suddenly, his isolated table, his untouched drink, the devastation Lily had noticed, it all made horrifying sense. I'm so sorry, Maya whispered. Alexander shook his head. Don't be. You don't know me. You owe me nothing. Grief isn't transactional, Maya said quietly. You don't have to earn sympathy. I'm sorry for your loss, because loss is terrible, and you're clearly drowning in it. He looked at her then, really looked, and Maya felt exposed under that gaze, like he was seeing past her cheap coat and her exhaustion to something underneath. You understand it, he said. Not a question. Different circumstances. But yes, I understand what it's like to have your future yanked away and be left standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out how to keep breathing. Philippe returned with their meals, beautifully plated pasta with marinara sauce. Though Maya suspected even this simple dish cost more than her usual grocery budget, Willie dug in with enthusiasm while the adults picked at their food. What do you do? Alexander asked. For work. Maya hesitated. The truth felt like another form of humiliation after everything else. I'm a nurse's assistant at St. Mary's Hospital. Morning shifts, 6 to 2. Then I have an evening shift at a medical billing company, 4 to 10. Weekends, I pick up shifts at a pharmacy. His expression shifted. 3 jobs. Lily needs to eat and have a home, and go to a school where she's safe. Maya's voice was flat, reciting facts she'd long since accepted. Her father left when she was 2. No child support. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, but I couldn't finish my nursing certification because I ran out of money for tuition. So I work. It's what mothers do. You're killing yourself. The blunt assessment made Maya's defenses spike. I'm surviving. There's a difference. Is there? Alexander leaned forward, his gaze intense. How many hours do you sleep each night? Enough. How many? 4, maybe 5. It's fine. It's not fine. You're one illness, one missed shift, one emergency away from losing everything. That's not sustainable. Maya's hands clenched in her lap. What would you like me to do? I don't have a trust fund or family money. I have student loans and medical bills and a daughter who deserves better than the hand she was dealt. So yes, I'm exhausted. Yes, I'm barely keeping my head above water. But I'm doing it, and we're okay. Are you? The question was soft, but it detonated something inside Maya. Tears burned behind her eyes. Angry tears, exhausted tears, tears she'd been holding back for months because she couldn't afford to break down. We have to be, she whispered. Lily looked up from her pasta, her expression suddenly worried. Mama? Maya forced a smile. I'm fine, baby. Just talking you've missed her. Thorn. But Alexander had seen that crack in her armor. That moment of vulnerability, he'd witnessed it, and something in his own expression softened in response. I'm sorry, he said. I had no right to. He stopped mid-sentence, his face going pale. His hand went to his chest, fingers splaying over his heart. The glass of scotch slipped from his other hand, shattering against the floor. Alexander? Maya's nursing training kicked in instantly. She was out of her chair, at his side, her hand on his wrist checking his pulse. What's happening? Talk to me. Can't. Breathe. His voice was strangled, his eyes wide with panic. The restaurant erupted in chaos. Diners stood, craning for a better view. Philippe rushed over, wringing his hands uselessly. Someone shouted to call 911. But Maya had already shifted into professional mode, her exhaustion forgotten. She guided Alexander down to the floor, her hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Everyone back up, she commanded, her voice carrying authority she usually kept hidden. Give him space to breathe. She checked his pulse again, rapid, thready. His pupils were dilated, his skin clammy. Panic attack, possibly, but she needed to rule out cardiac emergency. Alexander, look at me. Look right at me. She held his face between her hands, forcing eye contact. I need you to tell me, are you having chest pain, radiating down your arm? He shook his head, gasping. Okay, good. I think you're having a panic attack. Has this happened before? A jerky nod. Since she died. Another nod, this one almost ashamed. Maya's expression softened. Hey, there's no shame in this. Grief does terrible things to our bodies. But right now, I need you to breathe with me. Can you do that? She demonstrated. Slow inhale through the nose. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale through the mouth. Alexander tried to follow, his breathing ragged at first, then gradually evening out as she counted him through it. That's it. You're doing great. 4 seconds in. Hold. 4 seconds out. Lily appeared at Maya's elbow, her small face serious. Without being asked, she took Alexander's hand in both of hers, squeezing gently. You're okay, she said with complete conviction. Mama fixes everyone. The restaurant watched in stunned silence as Maya, in her cheap coat and damp scrubs, brought one of Manhattan's most powerful men back from the edge of panic. It took 5 minutes, maybe more, but gradually Alexander's color returned. His breathing steadied. The terror in his eyes receded. I'm sorry, he rasped. I'm so... Don't. Maya interrupted firmly. You have nothing to apologize for. Panic attacks are a medical condition, not a character flaw. Philippe hovered nearby, his earlier disdain completely evaporated. Mr. Thorne, should we call your physician? Your driver? No. Alexander's voice was stronger now. He sat up slowly with Maya's support. I'm fine, thank you, but I'm fine. He looked at Maya, and something had shifted in his expression. Wonder, maybe, or respect so profound it bordered on disbelief. You knew exactly what to do. I'm a nurse's assistant. I've seen panic attacks before. Maya helped him to his feet, steadying him when he swayed slightly. You should follow up with your doctor, though, especially if these are becoming frequent. They are. The admission seemed to cost him something. Since Elizabeth died, I can't seem to get my body to understand that I need to keep functioning. Mrs. Whitmore, who'd been watching from her table with an expression of reluctant awe, spoke up. Alexander, dear, perhaps you should take some time off. The company will survive without. The company is all I have left, he said quietly. Then he looked at Maya again and his voice dropped lower. Or it was. Until tonight. We should let you rest, Maya said, acutely aware that the entire restaurant was still watching them. Lily, say goodbye to Mr. Thorne. Goodbye, Mr. Thorne. I hope you feel better. Lily hugged his leg impulsively, and Alexander's hand came up to rest on her head, gentle, almost reverent. Wait. He straightened, some of his usual command returning to his bearing. Please, I need to ask you something. Maya hesitated. Alexander seemed to be gathering his thoughts, choosing words carefully. What you did just now, calming me down, knowing exactly what to do, that's not something you learn from a textbook. Experience, Maya said simply, and empathy. Sometimes, the second matters more than the first. I agree. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed her the screen. This is my direct number, not my office line. Mine. I want you to call me tomorrow. Mr. Thorne. Alexander, please. He glanced at Lily, then back at Maya. I have a proposition, one that could benefit both of us, but this isn't the right time or place to discuss it. Will you at least hear me out? Tomorrow. Lunch. Somewhere quieter than this. Maya's instincts screamed caution. Rich men making propositions to struggling single mothers, she'd heard enough horror stories to fill a library. But there was something in his eyes, something genuine beneath the billionaire exterior. What kind of proposition? The kind that might give you back some of those hours of sleep you're losing. And give me. He paused, searching for words. Give me something to focus on, besides grief. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But your daughter cracked something open in me tonight, and I don't want to let it close again. Lily tugged Maya's hand. He needs friends, Mama, like how I needed friends when we moved to the new school. Lily. Out of the mouths of babes, Alexander murmured. Please, one lunch. If you hate the idea, we part ways, and I remain grateful that you returned my wallet and probably saved my life twice in one evening. Maya felt the weight of every eye in the restaurant, the impossibility of this situation, the gulf between their worlds. But she also remembered what it felt like to drown in grief, to lose your grip on the future you'd planned. She remembered, and she couldn't walk away from someone who was clearly drowning. One lunch, she agreed, but I can't tomorrow. I work a double shift. Tuesday? Tuesday works. I'll text you the details. The relief in his voice was palpable. They left Lumiere under a very different energy than when they'd entered. The doorman, who'd barely acknowledged them, now held the door with a respectful nod. Philippe practically bowed as they passed, and through the window, Maya could see Alexander still standing at his table, watching them go with an expression she couldn't quite read. On the subway ride home, Lily fell asleep against Maya's shoulder, exhausted by the evening's drama. Maya stared at Alexander's number on her phone, wondering what kind of proposition a billionaire could possibly have for someone like her. Whatever it was, she had a feeling Tuesday would change everything. The restaurant Alexander chose for Tuesday was nothing like Lumiere. Gianni's was a small Italian place in Brooklyn, family-owned, where the smells of garlic and tomato sauce wrapped around you like a warm hug. No crystal chandeliers, no judgmental crowds. Just red-checkered tablecloths and a waiter who called everyone sweetheart. Maya arrived with Lily, both of them more appropriately dressed this time. Maya wore her one good blouse, cream-colored, a little worn at the cuffs, and black slacks. Lily had on a sunflower yellow dress that Maya's coworker had passed down, the hem let out twice already. Alexander was already there, sitting in a corner booth. He stood when they approached, and Maya noticed immediately that he looked different, more rested, maybe, or perhaps just more human, in jeans and a simple navy sweater. No tie, no armor of expensive fabric. "Thank you for coming," he said, sliding back into the booth after they settled across from him. "I wasn't sure you would." "I keep my promises." Maya accepted a menu from the smiling waiter. "Even when I'm terrified about what they might lead to." "Terrified?" Alexander's eyebrow rose. Rich, powerful man asking to meet a poor single mom privately. It's not exactly a scenario that inspires confidence. He flinched. "I didn't think of it that way. I'm sorry. I can arrange for, I don't know, a witness, lawyer? Whatever would make you comfortable." Maya studied him, this man who could buy and sell her world 1,000 times over, and saw only genuine concern. "Lily's my witness, right, baby?" "I'll protect you, Mama," Lily announced seriously, which made Alexander's lips twitch into almost smile. They ordered pasta for Lily, chicken parmesan for Maya, lasagna for Alexander, and then the waiter left them in their quiet corner booth. the ambient noise of the restaurant, providing cover for private conversation. "So," Maya said, folding her hands on the table, "your proposition." Alexander took a breath, and Maya saw his fingers tap against his water glass, a nervous tell that seemed at odds with his usual commanding presence. "I need help," he began. "Not financial or business help. Personal help. I'm falling apart." The raw honesty caught Maya off guard. "Since Elizabeth died, I can't function normally. The panic attacks are getting worse. I can barely sleep. I snap at my employees. I'm forgetting meetings. My board is starting to question whether I'm fit to lead." He looked directly at her. "At the restaurant, you brought me back from the edge in minutes. You did it with skill and compassion and this calm certainty that everything would be okay. I haven't felt that in 3 months. I'm not a therapist," Maya said carefully. "I have therapists, 3 of them. They're not helping." He leaned forward. "What I need is someone who understands that grief isn't something you intellectualize away. Someone who's lived through loss and come out the other side still capable of kindness. Someone who can be there during the day-to-day when the panic hits and I can't remember how to breathe." Understanding dawned. "You want me to be what, exactly? A companion? Nurse? A support person? For me, yes. But... He glanced at Lily, who was drawing on her paper placemat with crayons the waiter had provided. "I think maybe I need to remember why any of this matters. Your daughter did that. She looked at me and saw past all the money and power to the person underneath. When's the last time anyone did that?" Maya's throat tightened. "Alexander, I want to hire you," he said in a rush. "Full-time. Your salary would be—" He pulled out his phone, typed something, showed her the screen. Maya's eyes widened. The number was more than she made from all 3 jobs combined in a month. Per year. "That's insane," she whispered. "It's market rate for executive-level support staff." "I'm not executive-level anything. You saved my life Friday night. You saw me at my worst and didn't judge, didn't recoil, didn't tell me to pull myself together like everyone else does. That's worth more than any MBA." His intensity was almost overwhelming. "Your role would be flexible. Some days, I might just need someone to sit in my office while I work, knowing there's someone there if I spiral. Other days, I might need you to help me navigate social events where I don't trust myself not to break down. Maybe sometimes we just talk about loss and grief and how to keep living when part of you died with the person you loved." In comma period, "This is crazy," Maya said, but her mind was already racing. No more triple shifts. More time with Lily. The ability to pay rent without panic. To fix Lily's coat, buy her new shoes, afford the field trips she'd been saying no to for months. "Is it?" Alexander challenged. "You're drowning in work just to survive. I'm drowning in grief, with more money than I know what to do with. This helps us both." "Why me?" Maya asked. "You could hire anyone, someone with actual credentials." Alexander was quiet for a moment, choosing his words. "Friday night, when I was on that floor unable to breathe, you know what I saw in your eyes? Pity? Recognition. You looked at me like you knew exactly where I was, because you'd been there yourself. Not just professionally, personally." He paused. "Your daughter said her father left. But that's not the whole story, is it?" Maya's jaw tightened. "That's none of your—" "You're right, it's not. But I'm asking you to trust me with my worst moments. I think it's fair to ask if you understand what those moments feel like." The food arrived, providing a temporary reprieve. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Lily, happily twirling spaghetti, while the adults navigated the emotional minefield between them. Finally, Maya spoke, her voice low. His name was Derek. We met in college. I thought he was my forever. She traced the rim of her water glass. When I got pregnant, he seemed happy at first. But after Lily was born, he changed. Started staying out late, missing important moments. I found out he'd been having an affair with a coworker. I'm sorry. Don't be. The affair wasn't the worst part. Maya's voice went flat. The worst part was how he made me feel, like I'd trapped him. Like Lily and I were these obligations that ruined his life. He told me I was boring now, that motherhood had made me invisible, that I'd let myself go. Alexander's hand clenched around his fork. He left on Lily's second birthday. Didn't say goodbye to her. Just packed a bag and vanished. I found out later he'd moved to California with the other woman. He sends a card at Christmas. No money, no contact, just a card to check a box that says he's not a complete monster. She looked up, meeting Alexander's eyes. So yes, I know what it's like to have your future ripped away. To have to rebuild yourself from nothing, while everyone watches and judges and assumes you must have done something to deserve it. The vulnerability in the moment was almost unbearable. Lily, sensing the tension, climbed out of her seat and into her mother's lap, curling up like she used to do when she was smaller. You're not boring or invisible, Alexander said quietly. You're extraordinary. And he's an idiot. He's her father. Biology doesn't make someone a parent. Showing up does. Love does. Sacrifice does. He paused. Elizabeth used to say that real love isn't the passionate beginnings. It's the staying when things get hard. I didn't understand what she meant until she was gone. And I realized she'd been preparing me for exactly this. For the hard part. I'm just not very good at it. And someone who'd been unusually quiet spoke up. My teacher says everyone needs a friend when they're sad. Maybe that's what Mr. Thorne needs. A friend who doesn't mind that he's sad sometimes. Alexander and Maya both looked at the 7-year-old who'd somehow distilled their entire complex conversation into one simple truth. You're very wise, Alexander told her. Mama says that too, but I still have to do my homework. Lily sighed dramatically, then brightened. If Mama works for you, does that mean I get to visit your office? Is it tall? Can you see the whole city? Very tall, and yes, you could visit. I have a whole floor that's rarely used. We could set up, I don't know, whatever you'd want. An art room, library, a place where Mama could rest, Lily said immediately. She's always tired. She tries to hide it, but I know. The comment hung in the air. This child's casual observation that cut through to the heart of Maya's struggle. Alexander's expression shifted, something like pain crossing his features. Then we make sure your mother has a place to rest, he said. And time to rest, that's non-negotiable. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. When was the last time someone had prioritized her needs? When was the last time someone had seen her exhaustion and responded with care rather than judgment? I need to think about this, she said, her voice thick. It's a big decision. Of course. Alexander pulled out a business card, writing on the back. My personal cell again, and my email. I know this is unusual, but I also know I need help, and I trust you in a way I haven't trusted anyone in months. That has to mean something. They finished their lunch with lighter conversation. Alexander asking Lily about school. Lily explaining her current obsession with volcanoes. Maya watching the interaction with a mixture of wonder and terror. This man, who commanded boardrooms and built empires, was sitting in a Brooklyn Italian restaurant, listening to a 7-year-old explain lava flows with genuine interest. When they prepared to leave, Alexander insisted on paying. "It's the least I can do for taking up your afternoon." Outside, in the weak November sunlight, he crouched down to Lily's level one more time. "Thank you for being honest with me about the sadness. Most adults pretend they don't see it. That's because most adults are scared of feelings," Lily said with the confidence of someone who'd figured out a universal truth. "But feelings are important. Right, Mama?" "Right, baby." Alexander stood, extending his hand to Maya. She took it, and the handshake lasted a beat longer than necessary. A moment of connection that felt significant in ways she couldn't quite name. "Think about it," he said. "No pressure. But I hope you'll say yes." As they walked to the subway, Lily swinging their joined hands between them, she looked up at her mother. "I like him, Mama. He's sad, but he's kind. Like you." "Yeah," Maya murmured, pulling out her phone to look at Alexander's number one more time. "Yeah, he is." Maya had said yes. How could she not, when the alternative was drowning in exhaustion while Lily grew up barely seeing her mother? The first 2 weeks had been awkward. Learning the rhythms of Alexander's life, understanding when he needed space and when he needed presence. But gradually, something like a routine emerged. Maya arrived at Thorn Industries each morning at 8. Sometimes Alexander needed her in meetings, a calming presence when his anxiety spiked. Sometimes they just worked in his office together. Him on conference calls, her reading medical journals she'd never had time for before. Lily came after school, doing homework in what had become her corner of Alexander's office. A space he'd transformed with bookshelves, art supplies, and a window seat overlooking Central Park. He'd consulted Lily on every detail, and the little girl had declared it even better than a princess tower. The panic attacks had decreased from several times a week to maybe once every 2 weeks. Alexander was sleeping better, smiling more. The board had noticed, commenting on his improved demeanor in the last earnings call. But not everyone was happy about Maya's presence. Victoria Chen, no relation to Maya, despite the shared surname, was Thorn Industries' chief operating officer, and the woman everyone had assumed would eventually become the second Mrs. Thorn. She was brilliant, beautiful, and had been positioning herself as Alexander's right hand for 5 years. Then a nurse's assistant and her 7-year-old daughter had somehow accomplished what Victoria couldn't, bringing Alexander back to life. Maya first sensed the hostility during a meeting she sat in on, her presence a calming anchor while Alexander negotiated a major acquisition. Victoria's eyes kept flicking toward Maya, her expression cold and assessing. After the meeting, Victoria cornered Maya in the hallway. "Miss Chen." Victoria's smile was sharp enough to cut. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Victoria Chen, Chief Operating Officer." "Maya, nice to meet you properly." Maya extended her hand. Victoria's shake was brief, perfunctory. "I have to say, your arrangement with Alexander is quite unusual. What exactly is your role again?" "Executive support." "How vague. And you're not in HR system, I noticed. You're being paid through Alexander's personal accounts." Maya's guard went up instantly. "That's between Alexander and me. Of course, I'm just looking out for the company and for Alexander." Victoria's eyes glittered. "He's been through so much. Loss can make people vulnerable to Opportunists. I'm not an opportunist. Of course not. You're just a struggling single mother who happened to befriend a grieving billionaire and is now on his payroll at, what was it? 300,000 a year? Victoria's smile never wavered. Forgive me if that raises questions about your motives. My motives are to help someone who's suffering. That's it. How noble. Victoria's tone made it clear she believed the opposite. Well, I'm sure Alexander appreciates your support. Just remember that grief clouds judgment. Eventually, he'll come back to himself. And when he does, he'll remember who's been here all along. Who understands his world. Who belongs in it. Parenthetically, she walked away leaving Maya shaking with anger and a creeping sense of unease. That night, she mentioned the encounter to Alexander. His expression darkened. Victoria's been angling for a relationship since Elizabeth died. She sent flowers, showed up at my apartment, positioned herself as someone who could help me through this. I made it clear I wasn't interested. She thinks I'm after your money. Are you? He asked, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice. If I were, I'd be a lot better dressed. He laughed, a real laugh, the kind that reached his eyes. You're probably the only person in my life who'd turn down money if I offered it. I already turned it down once, remember? You did. He studied her with that intense gaze she'd come to recognize. Maya, I need you to know something. What you've given me, these past 6 weeks, it's not something money can buy. It's presence, understanding, the knowledge that someone sees me as a person, rather than a bank account or business opportunity. That's rare and valuable beyond measure. 2 weeks later, the first real blow fell. Maya was at the pharmacy, her old weekend job, which she'd kept part-time, both for the health insurance and because old habits died hard, when a woman in an expensive suit approached. Ms. Maya Chen? Yes. You've been served. She pressed an envelope into Maya's hands and walked away. Maya's hand shook as she opened it. The legal letterhead seemed to swim before her eyes. Petition for emergency custody evaluation. Derek Chen, petitioner. Derek. The man who'd abandoned Lily without a backward glance. The man who'd sent exactly 7 Christmas cards in 5 years, with no other contact. He was seeking custody of Lily, claiming Maya's erratic employment and inappropriate relationship with a male employer created an unstable environment. The document cited her long work hours, her sudden unexplained income, and included screenshots of social media posts showing Lily at Thorn Industries, exposing a minor child to an adult workplace environment for extended periods. Maya couldn't breathe. The pharmacy walls seemed to close in. Someone was asking if she was okay, but the words came from very far away. Her phone buzzed. Alexander, everything okay? Lily and I are making dinosaurs out of clay in the art room. She wants to know if you prefer pterodactyls or triceratops. Maya's vision blurred with tears. She called him, barely holding herself together. Maya, what's wrong? Derek, my ex, he's trying to take Lily. The words came out strangled. He's claiming I'm an unfit mother. That my job with you is inappropriate. That I'm exposing her to danger? Where are you? The pharmacy, on 5th. Don't move, I'm coming. Alexander arrived 15 minutes later with his lawyer, a woman named Patricia Morrison, who specialized in family law. They sat in Alexander's car while Patricia read through the custody petition, her expression growing grimmer by the page. This is retaliatory, Patricia said finally. Your ex has had 5 years to be involved in your daughter's life. The sudden interest, combined with the timing of your new employment, Suggests someone put him up to this. Who would? Maya started, then stopped. Victoria. Alexander's jaw clenched. I'll kill her. You will not, Patricia said firmly. You'll let me handle this legally. Miss Chen, how documented is your ex-husband's abandonment? I have every card he's sent, every email, the divorce decree where he waived his parental rights, bank records showing 0 child support. Good, that helps. But I'll be honest, family courts take stability seriously. The fact that you were working 3 jobs until recently, that could be framed as unstable. And your current employment situation is legitimate, Alexander interrupted. Maya is a valued member of my staff. She has a contract, benefits, everything documented. There's nothing inappropriate about her employment. I believe you, Patricia said. But opposing counsel will paint it differently. Single mother, young child, wealthy older man. They'll imply impropriety, even if there isn't any. Then we prove there isn't any, Maya said, her voice stronger now. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by the fierce protectiveness every mother feels when her child is threatened. I've been documenting everything. My work hours, Lily's school performance, which has improved since I started this job. Her doctor's appointments, which I can now actually attend, her happiness. I have journals, photographs, emails from her teacher praising how much more engaged she's been. Patricia nodded approvingly. That's excellent. We'll need all of it. And Alexander, I'll need you to prepare a statement about Ms. Chen's role in your company. Professional, detailed, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Done. They spent 2 hours in that car, building a defense strategy. When Patricia finally left, Maya slumped in the passenger seat, exhausted and terrified. I can't lose her, she whispered. She's everything. You won't. Alexander's hand covered hers, warm, steady, certain. I promise you, we will not let him take her. You can't promise that. Derek has money now. I looked him up. The woman he left me for, her family is wealthy. He can afford better lawyers. So can I. And unlike him, I actually care what happens to Lily. Alexander squeezed her hand. Maya, you're not alone in this. Not anymore. Alexander's prediction proved correct. Over the next week, his security team uncovered the truth. Victoria had contacted Derek through a private investigator, offering to fund his custody battle in exchange for his testimony about Maya's unstable behavior and inappropriate relationship with Alexander. The evidence was damning. Emails, wire transfers, even a recorded phone call where Victoria coached Derek on what to claim in his petition. It's corporate espionage dressed up as custody drama. Patricia explained in Alexander's office. Maya, Lily, and Alexander sat together on the leather couch, while Patricia paced, reading from her tablet. Victoria wanted to remove Maya from Alexander's life, thereby removing her stabilizing influence. If Alexander spiraled again, she'd be positioned to step in as the person who saved him. Classic manipulation. That's insane, Maya breathed. It's criminal, Alexander corrected. His voice was ice. She used my grief as a business opportunity and weaponized a little girl to do it. Lily, who'd been coloring quietly, looked up. I don't understand. Why would someone want to take me away from Mama? Is Mama in trouble? Maya pulled her daughter close. No, baby. Some people make bad choices. But we're going to fix this. Will Mr. Thorne help? Yes, Alexander said firmly. Absolutely yes. Alexander scheduled an emergency board meeting. Victoria arrived confident, unaware that her scheme had been exposed. She wore her armor, a designer suit, perfect hair, the smile of someone who believed they'd already won. The boardroom was packed, 15 board members, Patricia Morrison, and Maya, who Alexander had insisted be present. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Alexander began, standing at the head of the table. "We're here to address a serious matter involving one of our executives. Victoria, I believe you know why you're here." Victoria's smile didn't waver. "I'm afraid I don't, Alexander." "Then let me clarify." He nodded to Patricia, who activated the screen behind him. Emails appeared. Victoria's correspondence with Derek, complete with instructions on how to frame Maya as unfit. Wire transfers showing $50,000 sent to fund Derek's legal battle. The recorded phone call where Victoria explicitly stated her goal: remove the distraction so Alexander can focus on what matters. This company and the people who've been loyal to him. The color drained from Victoria's face. "You used company resources to investigate a personal employee of mine," Alexander continued, his voice deadly calm. "You contacted her ex-husband, a man who abandoned his child, and funded a custody battle designed to cause her maximum pain. And you did all of this because you saw Maya as a threat to your ambitions." "Alexander, I can explain." "No, you can't." He leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. "Maya Chen has done more for me in 6 weeks than you accomplished in 5 years. She helped me survive grief without expecting anything in return. She never positioned herself as my savior or manipulated my vulnerability. She simply showed up with kindness and competence, qualities you apparently find threatening." One of the board members, an older man named Harrison, cleared his throat. "This is highly irregular, Alexander. While Victoria's actions are certainly questionable, is it really grounds for corporate espionage, fraud, witness tampering?" Patricia interrupted smoothly. "Because those are the legal terms for what Ms. Victoria Chen did. She used company funds to hire investigators. She contacted a witness in a custody case and coached his testimony. She attempted to manipulate our CEO during a period of documented mental health vulnerability. Any one of those actions is grounds for immediate termination and possible criminal charges." The board erupted in whispers. Victoria stood, her hands shaking. "This is absurd. I was trying to protect the company. This woman, this nobody, shows up out of nowhere, and suddenly she's getting paid a fortune to babysit a grown man? It's inappropriate." "Once inappropriate," Maya said quietly, standing for the first time, "is using a child as a weapon. Whatever you think of me, whatever your issues with Alexander, my daughter is 7 years old. You tried to rip her away from the only parent who's ever consistently loved her. Not for her welfare, for your career." The room went silent. "I'm a nobody," Maya continued, her voice steady, despite the tears streaming down her face. "You're right about that. I'm a nurse's assistant who works too hard for too little money. I'm a single mother who sometimes feeds her daughter cereal for dinner because I'm too exhausted to cook. I'm not sophisticated or educated in business or connected to the right families." She turned to face the entire board. "But I know what it means to show up for someone, to care about them without an agenda, to see them as a person rather than an opportunity. Alexander hired me because he needed someone who understood grief, not someone who wanted to profit from it. And for that, you tried to destroy my family." The board voted unanimously to terminate Victoria's employment immediately. Furthermore, Patricia had already filed a restraining order, preventing Victoria from contacting Derek or interfering in the custody case. The evidence of her manipulation would be submitted to the court, demolishing Derek's credibility. Victoria was escorted from the building by security, her perfect mask finally cracking as reality set in. Afterward, in Alexander's office, Maya finally let herself break down. Alexander held her while she sobbed. For the fear of the past week, for the trauma of having her fitness as a mother questioned, for the exhaustion of fighting battles she never asked for. Lily climbed into her mother's lap, patting her face. "It's okay, Mama. The bad lady can't hurt us anymore." Mr. Thorne made sure. "He did," Maya managed through her tears. "He really did." Alexander crouched down beside them, his hand resting gently on Maya's shoulder. "I made you a promise. I said you wouldn't lose her. I keep my promises." "Thank you," Maya whispered. "Thank you for seeing us as worth fighting for." "Maya." He waited until she looked at him. "You and Lily aren't just worth fighting for. You've become essential. To me, to my life. These past 6 weeks, you've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. A reason to look forward to tomorrow." "Alexander." "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I know this is complicated. I know our situations are delicate. But I need you to know that what we have, this friendship, this understanding, it matters more to me than any board meeting or business deal ever could." The custody case was dismissed with prejudice after Derek's credibility collapsed under scrutiny. The judge had been particularly scathing about fathers who remember their children only when financially incentivized, and had actually increased Maya's legal protections, making any future custody challenges nearly impossible without evidence of genuine unfitness. Maya's life had transformed in ways she was still processing. She'd been able to pay off her student loans. She'd moved from her tiny Queens apartment to a modest but comfortable place in Brooklyn, with an actual bedroom for Lily, not just a partitioned corner of the living room. She'd enrolled in nursing classes at Columbia, working toward the certification she'd abandoned years ago. But the biggest change wasn't material. It was the way she breathed easier now. The way she could actually sleep through the night. The way she could watch Lily play without calculating how many shifts she needed to cover new shoes. And through it all, Alexander had been there. Not as her employer exactly, but as something more complicated. A friend. A confidant. Someone who texted her at midnight when the grief hit too hard and trusted she'd understand. They'd fallen into a rhythm. Weekday mornings at Thorne Industries, where Maya's official role had evolved into something closer to chief of staff. Evenings. Alexander would often join them for dinner, sometimes at Maya's apartment, where he'd gamely attempt to help Lily with homework. Sometimes at restaurants, where Lily would declare her approval or disapproval of the food with brutal 7-year-old honesty. It was Lily who first voiced what everyone had been thinking. They were at Central Park on a Saturday, watching autumn leaves drift onto the lake. Alexander had taught Lily to skip stones, and she was now determined to beat his record of 7 skips. "Mr. Thorne," Lily said, selecting another stone carefully, "do you still love the lady who died?" Alexander froze mid-throw. Maya started to intervene, but he held up a hand. "Yes," he said simply. "I'll always love Elizabeth." "Good." Lily examined her stone. "Mama says loving someone who's gone doesn't mean you stop living. It means you carry them with you while you keep going. Your mother is very wise." "I know." Lily threw her stone. 3 skips. She frowned at it, then turned to face Alexander fully. but I think Elizabeth would be sad if you stayed lonely forever. Mama says when people love you, they want you to be happy, even after they're gone. Alexander's eyes met Maya's over Lily's head. Something unspoken passed between them. Acknowledgement of feelings neither had been brave enough to voice. "What makes you think I'm lonely?" Alexander asked gently. "You're less sad than before, but sometimes I see you look at Mama the way my friend Emma's dad looks at Emma's mom, like she's the best thing you've seen all day." Maya felt her cheeks flame. "Lily, it's accurate," Alexander said quietly. He sat down on the bench beside Maya. His hands clasped between his knees. "Your daughter is alarmingly perceptive. It's a gift and a curse," Maya murmured. Lily, satisfied with her detective work, returned to throwing stones. Alexander and Maya sat in silence, watching her, the weight of everything unsaid building between them. "I didn't think I'd feel this again," Alexander said finally. "After Elizabeth, I was certain that was it. One great love per lifetime. Use it well, mourn forever when it's gone. But you and Lily walked into Lumiere looking like you didn't belong. And somehow, you belonged more than anyone else there. And every day since, you've shown me that maybe there's not a quota on caring. Maybe hearts are bigger than we think. Maybe loving someone who's gone and loving someone who's here aren't mutually exclusive." Maya's throat tightened. "Alexander, I'm not asking for anything," he said again, echoing his words from months ago. "I just needed you to know what you've become to me, what she's become to me." He gestured toward Lily. "If this is all we ever are, friends, colleagues, whatever label fits, I'm grateful for it. But if there's ever a time when you might want more, I'd like to be first in line." That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya stood in her kitchen making tea she didn't really want, her mind churning. The truth was, she'd felt it too. The way her heart lifted when Alexander texted. The way she'd catch herself looking forward to seeing him, planning things to tell him, saving jokes she thought he'd appreciate. The way Lily had started calling him Mr. Alexander instead of Mr. Thorne, a small shift that felt monumental. But loving Alexander meant vulnerability. It meant trusting someone with her heart again, after Derek had shattered it. It meant risking Lily's happiness too, because her daughter was already deeply attached. What if Alexander's grief resurfaced? What if he woke up one day and realized he'd been seeking comfort, not love? What if the class difference that had seemed surmountable became a canyon once again? Her phone buzzed. "Alexander, can't sleep. Thinking about what I said in the park. I hope I didn't overstep." "Maya, you didn't. I'm thinking too." "Alexander, good thoughts or terrified thoughts?" Maya smiled despite herself. "Both." "Alexander, fair. For what it's worth, I'm terrified too. But Lily told me something once. She said feelings are important, and most adults are scared of them. I don't want to be that adult anymore." Maya stared at the text for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "Maya, come over tomorrow, after Lily's dance class. We should talk properly." "Alexander, I'll be there." Sunday evening, Alexander arrived at Maya's apartment with flowers. Not roses, which felt too presumptuous, but sunflowers, Lily's favorite. The little girl answered the door in her dance clothes, tutu slightly askew. "Mr. Alexander, we learned a new spin today. Want to see?" "Absolutely." Maya watched from the kitchen doorway as her daughter performed her dance routine in the living room. Alexander, sitting on the couch, providing enthusiastic applause. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and looked completely at home in her modest apartment with its second-hand furniture and Lily's artwork covering the fridge. This, Maya thought, this is what matters. Not the money or the office or the fancy restaurants. This moment right here, a powerful man sitting on a worn couch, delighted by a 7-year-old's pirouette. After Lily finished her performance and retreated to her room to play, Maya sat beside Alexander on the couch, leaving a careful distance between them. "So," she began. "So," he echoed, "I need to tell you something." Maya folded her hands in her lap. "When Derek left, he broke something in me. Not just my heart, my trust, my belief that I could be loved for who I am, rather than what I provide or represent. It took years to build myself back up, and even now, there are cracks." "Maya, let me finish, please." She took a breath. "You're wonderful. You've been so good to us. But you're also a billionaire who's grieving the love of his life, and I'm a single mother with more baggage than a 747. The rational part of me says this is crazy, that I'm setting myself up for heartbreak. And the irrational part? The irrational part thinks you might be the best thing to happen to us in years. The irrational part loves how Lily lights up when you walk in. The irrational part has started imagining futures I promised myself I wouldn't imagine again." Alexander shifted closer, not touching her, but near enough that she could feel his warmth. "I can't promise I won't occasionally be a mess. Grief doesn't follow a schedule, but I can promise that what I feel for you isn't some rebound or surrogate for what I lost. Elizabeth was extraordinary. You're extraordinary in completely different ways. This isn't about replacing her. It's about learning that my capacity for love is bigger than I thought. What if it doesn't work? What if we try this and it falls apart? Lily already loves you. If this ends badly, done, then we'll handle it with the same grace we've handled everything else. But Maya, what if it doesn't fall apart? What if we're both brave enough to risk being happy?" Maya looked at him, really looked, saw the hope and fear and determination in his eyes, saw the man who'd defended her in a restaurant full of strangers, who'd fought for her daughter's custody like she was his own, who'd shown up consistently, even when his own grief must have made just getting out of bed feel impossible. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." He finally closed the distance, taking her hand. "Let's be scared together." Their first kiss happened 2 weeks later, after a particularly successful parent-teacher conference where Lily's teacher had praised her improved confidence and academic performance. They were walking through the city, Lily between them, holding both their hands, when she suddenly announced she needed to use the bathroom. They ducked into a Starbucks. While Lily was occupied, Alexander and Maya stood awkwardly by the cream and sugar station. "This is our first moment alone in days," Alexander observed. "Lily's a very efficient chaperone. She is." He smiled, then grew serious. "Maya, She kissed him before he could finish, rising up on her toes to press her lips to his. It was brief, sweet, and tasted like the hot chocolate she'd been drinking. When she pulled back, his eyes were wide with surprise and something that looked like joy. "I'm tired of being careful," she said. "I'm tired of protecting myself from good things because I'm afraid they'll turn bad. You make me happy. You make Lily happy. I'd like to see where this goes." His smile could have powered the city. "I'd like that too." Lily emerged from the bathroom and immediately noticed the shift in energy. "Did you finally kiss?" she asked with the bluntness of children everywhere. Maya and Alexander exchanged glances, both fighting laughter. "Yes," Maya admitted. "Good, you were taking forever." Lily grabbed both their hands again. "Can we get hot chocolate now? The kind with extra marshmallows?" "Absolutely," Alexander said, swinging her arm. "Whatever you want." The relationship went public 3 months later, when a tabloid caught them at a charity gala. The headline read, "Billionaire CEO's New Love, From Tragedy to Romance with Single Mom." The article was surprisingly sympathetic, focusing on Alexander's recovery from grief and Maya's inspiring journey from 3 jobs to corporate executive. But the attention was overwhelming. Reporters camped outside Maya's apartment. Her coworkers at the hospital peppered her with questions. Lily's school had to implement new security protocols. "I'm sorry," Alexander said for the 100th time, pacing Maya's living room while she sat on the couch. "I should have prepared you better for this." How do you prepare someone for their entire life becoming public property? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. We always do. The real test came when a less friendly publication ran a hit piece suggesting Maya was a gold digger. Who targeted a vulnerable billionaire? The article dredged up every difficult moment from her past: Derek's abandonment, her financial struggles, even her father's death when she was 19. Maya read it in Alexander's office, her hands shaking with rage and humiliation. "They called me a desperate social climber," she said, her voice hollow. "They implied I only returned your wallet to engineer this, that everything has been calculated." Alexander took the tablet from her hands and set it aside. "Anyone who knows you knows that's garbage. But millions of people don't know me. They'll believe it. Then we show them who you really are." He pulled her to her feet. "Come with me." Alexander called a press conference, something he rarely did for personal matters. Maya stood beside him at the podium, terrified but determined, while cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. "I'm going to make a statement," Alexander said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to commanding rooms. "And then Miss Chen will have an opportunity to speak, if she chooses." The room quieted. 3 months ago, someone I loved died. In the aftermath, I found myself unable to function. I was drowning in grief, having panic attacks, questioning whether I wanted to continue leading my company or even continue living. Then I met Maya Chen and her daughter Lily. He glanced at Maya, and the cameras caught the softness in his expression. Maya didn't know who I was when she returned my wallet. She didn't care about my net worth or my company. She saw a human being in pain and responded with the same compassion she'd show anyone. Over the following months, she helped me remember how to breathe, how to find purpose, how to imagine a future beyond loss. A reporter called out, "So you're confirming the relationship?" "Yes. But more than that, I'm confirming that Maya Chen is one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. She's brilliant, hardworking, and possesses more integrity than any billionaire I've ever worked with, myself included. The narrative that she's somehow taking advantage of me is not just wrong, it's insulting. To her, to me, and to anyone who's ever had to work 3 jobs to survive." He stepped back from the microphone, gesturing for Maya to take his place. She'd prepared notes, but looking at the sea of faces and cameras, she abandoned them. "I don't expect you to understand our relationship," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I barely understand it myself sometimes. But I want to be clear about one thing. I didn't pursue Alexander. I didn't scheme or plan or engineer anything. I'm a nurse's assistant who found a wallet and did what I'd hope someone would do if they found mine. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Everything that's happened since, the job, the relationship, the happiness my daughter and I have found, these weren't things I manipulated into existence. They grew organically from two broken people finding comfort in each other's company. If that makes me a gold digger in your eyes, then I guess I'll have to live with that. But I know the truth. My daughter knows the truth. And Alexander knows the truth. That's what matters. The questions came in a rush after that, but Maya and Alexander had said what they needed to say. They left the press conference hand in hand, stepping into a car where Lily waited with Alexander's assistant. "How'd I do?" Maya asked, collapsing into the seat. "Like a superhero," Lily announced. "Mr. Alexander said you were going to tell everyone the truth, and you did." Alexander squeezed Maya's hand. "You were perfect." The proposal, when it came, wasn't at a fancy restaurant or on a yacht, or any of the places Maya had joked Alexander might choose. It was on a Tuesday evening in Maya's apartment, after a dinner of slightly burnt chicken and overcooked vegetables that Lily had insisted on helping prepare. They were doing dishes, Alexander washing, Maya drying, Lily at the kitchen table finishing homework, when Alexander suddenly set down the sponge and turned to face her. "Marry me," he said. Maya nearly dropped the plate she was holding. "What?" "Marry me. Not because it makes sense on paper, or because it's the next logical step. Marry me because I wake up every morning grateful that you exist. Because your daughter has taught me more about living than any therapist or self-help book. Because I want every Tuesday evening for the rest of my life to look like this one."